Hello and welcome to the third episode of Hitachi in Southeast Asia, Social Innovation in Action. I'm your host, Michelle Martin. About 70% of adults in Southeast Asia do not have access to a basic bank account. In this conversation, we discuss how technology is bridging the financial gap and transforming opportunities for underserved communities. I'm joined by Hon Yuen Ng from Hitachi Asia and Kit Seong Lee from Aon Credit Service Malaysia. Hon Yuen, Kit Seong, welcome to the program. Great to meet both of you. Yeah. So despite rapid economic growth, and we know that this region varies widely, there's a great deal of diversity, financial exclusion is still significant. About 7 in 10 adults don't have access to basic financial services. Maybe we could start with an overview of financial exclusion in this part of the world from your perspective. Hon Yuen?
Right. Thanks, Michelle. I think as you correctly pointed out, when you talk about the topic of financial inclusions, the situation here in Singapore is very different compared to the rest of Southeast Asia. Right. Before we zoom into the details, let's take a look at some of the figures so that we can appreciate better the scale of the challenge that we are facing. As you correctly pointed out, 70% of the adult in Southeast Asia doesn't have access to even the most basic financial services. Elsewhere in Philippines, the number of people that actually have access to a bank account is less than 35%, right? Can you imagine? Less than 35%. And if we zoom into some of the common factors that affected the barriers to these financial inclusions, we can summarize into a few sections. The first one is infrastructures. Traditional banks offer their services via physical branches. But when you are at rural places or economically advantaged areas, it is impossible for the banks to put a branch there, right? And without a physical branch, the citizens around those areas simply just have no options to have a banking service.
Sure.
A next factor will be financial literacies. Most of the underbanked and unbanked individuals just lack the financial knowledge to be able to understand the more complicated terms in the financial world. If we take examples of insurance, right? Most of them doesn't even know what they are purchasing, what kind of benefit they're entitled to, until they enter into a life events and they need to make a claims. And usually that is where bad situation happens. And usually this kind of bad experience also affect their trust and the confidence to the financial systems. And lastly, we talk about collaterals. Most of the traditional banks require very solid collaterals before they can give you a bigger loans, right? And this make the individuals into a catch-22 situations whereby you need big financial resources before you can get financial services. So at Hitachi, we see this challenge as opportunities for innovations. By leveraging the power of technology as well as fostering collaborations, we are confident that we can create transformative solutions that can bridge the financial gap across Southeast Asia.
Okay, well, Kit Seong, let's hear from you. Your perspective on financial exclusion in this part of the world, maybe from where you work, Malaysia?
I think Aon Credit Service actually is a leading financial service provider in Malaysia. So, and I'm anchor what Hon Yuen has mentioned earlier. We still observe there's a multiple barrier in terms of accessing to financial service by certain segment of the customer, especially from rural area, as well as the lower income segment. I think the key point what we actually observe, I think in terms of traditional credit assessment, with a rigid document requirements as well as income proof and also a high credit score for a customer, especially for the lower income group, that actually bar the customer to be accessed to the financial service which we are offering. And also on top of that, also especially for a new segment, that new to credit segment, that also they're facing utmost challenges in terms of accessing to financial service, because with the lack of credit records as well as the long-term income proof for them to access to the financial service that we are provided. And lastly, I think also the financial literacy level of the customer that also created misuse of their credit facilities, that broken their good credit scoring records, that bar them to further access for future financial service that they require. That is the conclusion that I observed for the past 20 over years in the industry.
Okay, so many reasons behind financial exclusion, from lack of infrastructure, the need for collateral, and also this whole idea of credit score and being able to have these sort of records in order to have the credit score as a catch-22 sort of situation. So what are some solutions, gentlemen, that come to mind when you think about tackling financial exclusion?
I think in terms of lack of infrastructure, we acknowledge that the adoption of technology innovation is crucial, which enable us to really speed to market and also enable us to provide a seamless, secure, and affordable product to our customer. With the enhancement of the credit processing process by using the OCR, eKYC also allow us to simplify our credit underwriting processes. So on top of that also, AI and machine learning actually allow us to improve our credit scoring efficiency and also accuracy, so we can serve a wider scope of our customer segment, especially those like low-income group, freelancer, and also gig worker. That is my point. In terms of new product and also enhancing our product gaps, as a Aon Credit Service, actually, we very much focus in terms of bringing finance closer to everyone. So in terms of business domain expansion, in year 2021, actually, we acquired an insurance broker company, which we want to enhance and expand our service to offer micro insurance products, such as personal accident, life, credit shield, as well as extended warranty for a lower income segment. In year 2024 May, actually, we actually launched our first Islamic digital bank in Malaysia. With the onboarding of digital bank, we're able to complete our customer life cycle service, which we're able to offer savings, in the future investment product to our customer. Eventually, in Malaysia, as a Aon Group, we're able to offer retail, banking, lending, as well as insurance product to our customer, especially to the lower income segment.
Is this the first for Islamic banking in Malaysia
Yes.
to be able to be offered?
Yeah,
in one
we are the
place?
first licensed digital Islamic banking,
Right.
using digital and technology without branch and network to serve our customer, especially for the underserved segment.
Yeah, really interesting. So that's a great example of how technology is overcoming infrastructure gaps. I wonder if you have some thoughts on what can be done to tackle financial exclusion.
Okay, I think from Hitachi's side, the way we look at this problem is that it can only be solved not by a single method or two, right?
Yeah.
It requires multifaceted approach to these problems. So the first one, let's talk about technologies. As I mentioned earlier, traditional banks offer their services via the branches. But if you look at today's, most of the bank services can be done over a smartphone. So we believe that the continued increase in the smartphone penetrations will help open up the barriers to the financial inclusions, right? So that's one. On the financial literacy end, I think when it comes to sophisticated, or I wouldn't say sophisticated, just more complex financial products like insurance, we need to be mindful that not to overcomplicate the conversation, especially when your market segment is the underbanked or underserved. Right. Having a well-designed, well-thought-through mobile applications not only allows the underbanked individuals to have better appreciations of what they are buying, what kind of protection they are acquiring, it also helps to promote trust and confidence, right, towards the company and also the systems. And lastly, when we are talking about the underbanked and the underserved segment, we cannot expect everyone to have very good credit scoring, great collaterals, and very good payroll records, right? So with the advancements of artificial intelligence and data technologies, now as a bank, they have actually more than one way to look at the individuals. They can assess the individual's creditworthiness beyond the normal means. And over here, policymakers have a role to play. If policymakers continue to encourage such innovations like alternate credit scoring, right, I think it will help the underbanked individuals to gain easier access to financial resources that they need. At Hitachi, we are committed to continue advancing the financial inclusions using our digital finance technologies. One of the examples that I would like to maybe call out will be our partnership with a bank in Philippines, where we help them design and implement digital payment and settlement system. This system will allow the users to be able to transact electronically without the needs of cash as well as a physical branch. And not only that, the data that we collected from this system can then at a later stage be used to assess the credit worthiness of the individuals. So in that case, they may not need the traditional records to get a loan.
Wow.
Right. So this partnership is a very good example to show how a collaboration like this are able to bring the partnership and also the benefits to nationwide. Right. Over here, we are not talking about facilitating transactions. We are trying to create inclusive ecosystems that can increase the accessibility of financial service even to the most remote areas in the nations. So at Hitachi, our goals here is not to just talk about technologies. We are trying to create a scalable and sustainable solutions that can able to transform lives. With our global talents and deep local insight, we are confident that we can provide the necessary financial tools that can unlock the resources needed for all the underbanked and underserved segments to thrive in their life.
I'm glad you mentioned partnerships, because now I want to go over to you, Kit Seong, and ask a little bit about Aon's partnership with Hitachi. If there's a success story, maybe you can share about how this partnership is really enabling more access to financial services.
I think our partnership with Hitachi started since 2016. And primarily, actually, we are, as a start, we're focusing more on digital transformation journey. And we work with Hitachi how to automate, how to transform our processes, our credit assessment process, and including the system enhancement. And recently, we actually have two key projects. And one of it is actually we are developing our own ecosystem, which we call it Aon Living Zone. That, I think, by right into the Hitachi expertise, actually, they're able to help us to create a mini apps for our loyalty member system. With the loyalty member system, we're able to allow the lower income segment, the underserved segment, to tap into these mini apps, which is embedded in our e-wallet. That subsequently we can embed our financial solution and also insurance products to this segment of customer. So with that, we hope that we can also drive financial inclusion through our Aon Living Zone. And also we actually integrated our retail, finance, banking, and also insurance service into these super apps. So on the second project, actually currently we are working on is a migration to cloud. So we are Hitachi is a partnership to help us to build the foundation for foundation for the cloud platform, enable us to have a lower our IT costs, to improve our operation efficiency, flexibility and scalability, and also speed to market. With that, we hope that we can serve our customer more effectively.
So interesting. You mentioned you've been working with Hitachi since 2016.
Yes.
So this is a long-standing partnership. I want to take us to the future. So Hitachi has a roadmap for the future, I understand. Can you give us a glimpse at how you anticipate using technology for this purpose of financial inclusion? And what sort of trends or movements in this area of technological advancement are you thinking of integrating possibly for this future roadmap?
Okay. Looking in the futures, Hitachi has a couple of strategic roadmaps for financial inclusions, and it's largely categorized into a couple of pillars. So maybe I'll pick a few that I personally very passionate about. Yeah. Right. I think the first and foremost is the artificial intelligence and of course generative AI. Right. Everybody is talking about it.
Can't not talk about it.
Yeah. So I think with this technology, it has significantly made financial services much more affordable, accessible, as well as personalized. To be honest, I'm not surprised to see in the very near futures AI-powered digital financial advisor, whereby it can provide sophisticated financial advice for whether or not it's insurance or investment to not only the wealthy but also the mass market, right? These kind of services usually are only exclusive to those that is actually in the wealthier class, right? The second technologies that I am quite passionate about is actually blockchain, right? We have been talking about blockchain for a couple of years, right? This is not a new topic. But I personally believe that the potential of blockchain has not been fully realized. Beyond cryptocurrencies, another areas that I feel blockchain can contribute greatly to financial inclusions is in the areas of supply chain finance. By having the transparency characteristics of a blockchain technology in a supply chain finance, bank can consider release the payments to the suppliers earlier and hence improve their cash flows. And with these supply chain finance records in the banks, financial institution can also consider using this to again assess the credit worthiness of a particular small businesses. And maybe this will also even allow them to actually apply for more working capitals. The third technologies that I think is actually very hot nowadays is quantum computing, right? Before I joined this podcast, I just taken a look at one of the Deloitte reports. It says that just financial industry alone, they are going to invest almost more than 200 times of their investment in the next 10 years, right? And one of the main reasons behind this investment is that many of the financial institutions believe quantum computing will drastically change the way the banks prevent fraud, assess risk, as well as making their banking environment more secure. And talking about securities, quantum computing is also another technologies that when used in the wrong hands, let's say for example, cyber attackers, will be actually very harmful. So, and financial sector is a sector whereby it's very lucrative for this kind of ransomware attack and cyber attack, right? So I expect financial institutions to continue to invest in these areas to defend against such attack, as well as to create a robust banking environment.
So quantum technologies, AI,
Yes.
generative sort of interactive chatbots, so to speak. What does Aon think of the idea of AI and financial inclusion?
After listening from Kuan Yin, actually they attract my interest in terms of to explore Hitachi, in terms of the how AI can support us in terms of create an alternate score.
Yeah.
Alternate score not actually enhance
You mean
our
alternate credit score? Can I just
alternate
check?
credit score,
Okay.
which actually not is actually enhance our current credit scoring model, which is based on financial data and all those. But alternate score actually provide us to assess the customer behavior, their lifestyle, and enable us to really do some income estimation based on their behavior, so that can enhance my credit underwriting process. So I would like to also engage more with Hon Yen on this technology.
Well, I love it that this podcast has led to new business. Let's end with a question for both of you. What would you like to leave our listeners with regarding this whole idea of technology and bridging the gaps of financial exclusion?
I think we need a strong technology partner to break the financial inclusion barrier and to enable us to provide a simple and secure product to our customer. So with development of super apps with the support of Hitachi, which embedded into the wallets, I'm confident that we're able to reach our customer better.
Yes, so let's talk to the technology partner. Share with us your thoughts on the importance of closing the gaps with financial exclusion and how you see technology enabling this.
Well, the challenge of financial inclusions is very significant. At Hitachi, we also believe that the opportunities is as significant, right? By leveraging on the power of technologies, fostering close partnership with various stakeholders, and I think more importantly, putting people at the center of this combined effort, we can create a future where everyone will have equal access to financial tools and also financial resources, right? And we are not only talking about finance, we are talking about create equitable and also prosperous futures across Southeast Asia.
Well, fantastic insights, and it's been wonderful to witness this partnership in action right here on this podcast. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you for joining us on this episode where we've been discussing how technology is breaking barriers to financial inclusion and empowering millions in this region with greater access to financial services. Hon Yen and Kit Seong, thank you both for your valuable insights today and inspiring conversation about the transformative role of technology in solving Southeast Asia's most pressing challenges in financial exclusion. I'm Michelle Martin, your host. Thank you so much for listening to Hitachi in Southeast Asia, Social Innovation in Action.